Welcome, welcome, welcome to Intro to Google Sites. So Sarah will be showing us today how to build a Google site. On Twitter, you can see the Twitter handle at the top for Sarah and for myself. You can also go to my website to sign up for the newsletter and all of that awesome, amazing stuff. And if you are going to sign up, this is a great time because August newsletter will be coming out pretty soon. So I'm Dr. Desiree Alexander. I'm the founder, CEO of Educator Alexander Consulting. I also work for an educational nonprofit. I started my career as a 6th grade and 8th grade English teacher, became a middle school librarian, a high school English teacher, a high school librarian, and a district level instructional technology supervisor, and now I'm doing this. On Twitter, you can find me at Educator Alex. All the other social media, including YouTube, I'm at Educator Alexander. Definitely check out the YouTube channel. It has so many good resources, including this video. If you're watching this on YouTube, right underneath the video, you'll see the description. If you click on Show More, that's where you'll see the link to the resource that Sarah will be going over. So some upcoming webinars that we have, you see the little QR code in the corner. That will just bring you to the one website where all of these are listed. So if you want more information, you want a quick button to register, that's where you go. We have one today, right after this. We have Let's Team Up, getting started with Microsoft Teams. So go ahead and register for that one and hop on in. Tomorrow, we have Classroom Management taught by me. Then next weekend, we have Misinformation in the Information Age. That's going to be a really, really good one, just talking about like, well, I saw it online, so it must be true. Oh my gosh, please stop. And then we have, at the end of the month, Bitmojis. So talking about how to use Bitmojis for education, how to make your Bitmojis move, all that kind of stuff is Jen. Then we hop on into September with the incredible and wonderful Inky, talking about differentiating assignments on Google. So you definitely want to come to that one. And then we have Sarah coming on back with Beth for templates for teachers. I think we already have like 100 and something people register for that one. I'm like, woof. So come, make sure you get your spot and register for, and we haven't even promoted it that much. It's in September and we already have, I think, 167 people. So register for that one before the spots fill up. There's also a summer camp that's going to end in August. I think it's at the end of August, if I'm not mistaken. And this is from Kids Academy, and it's for pre-K students through 3rd grade. And it's free for educators because you get like a trial. And for parents, it's $20. So if you go to my website, you get a $5 off coupon. So $15. And it's all kind of online, awesome activities for them to start learning. And then today, I can't believe all the stuff is today. Today, we have Ed Camp. So this is thrown by Region 10 in Texas. So if you're part of Region 10, it is free. If you're not, it is a paid event. I don't think it's like going to break your wallet, but it's a paid event. So I'm speaking twice there. You can look at the website to see more. And BR, this is what we were talking about earlier. Somebody's coming, yay! It may be starting to sell out. So if you want to come, this is all about distance learning, specifically for ELA 6 through 12. I do have just like generic distance learning as well. I think that's coming back in August. So, well, later in August or something like that. I don't know. Check the website. There you go. And then we will have an evaluation at the end. For my people who are watching this live, you are the only ones that are able to get a certificate. You don't get a certificate for watching the YouTube video. However, the only way you get a certificate is by filling out the evaluation. So I like to make sure that you understand that in the beginning. So I will say one other thing. I'm going to stop sharing my screen so Sarah can share hers. But we have other webinars also being planned like right now. So Sarah has sent me like 2 or 3. Tanya Griffin, if you, 3, see? Tanya Griffin, if you know her, she's amazing. And she sent me 2 or 3 for like SEL kind of stuff. So y'all, even more will be added this fall, and we haven't even gotten to the spring yet. I can't even imagine. So even more will be added. So definitely keep an eye on the newsletter, keep an eye on my social media. You can always go to the upcoming events on my website and you'll be able to see what's upcoming. The last thing I do want to say is about Iste. So if you are a person who likes to go to Iste every year, we know that Iste was moved to like November, December, and now it is all online. So if you've never been to Iste, you may want to check out the virtual Iste that is coming up. I do not have it on my website just yet. If you scroll down, you'll see that I was going to be at the real, like the in-person Iste. So I haven't updated the website just yet for the virtual Iste, but I am a featured speaker there. I'm very honored to be that. So check that out as well. Sarah, I'm going to be quiet so you can take it away. Google Sites.
All right. Thank you so much for joining, especially at this different hour for us. Super excited to see so many familiar names in there. And today is really where you could take all of your prior knowledge, everything that we've talked about, the slides, the sheets, the more tools, using Google Classroom, all that kind of, and Google Sites becomes kind of like that place where a lot of that stuff can come together. Now, a little introduction. I know a lot of you already know who I am. You know my connection to Desiree. But as a reminder, I am Sarah Kiefer. I'm a technology integration specialist for the Ross Local Schools. And that's just a smallish school district, a little northwest of Cincinnati, Ohio. I have been there all of my teaching career, minus my very, very first year. And I started out as a 5th grade teacher, and then I moved into 7th and 8th grade social studies, which I absolutely loved. And then there was an opportunity to apply for, and I accepted this current position that I'm in as a technology integration specialist. And then I was moved down to the elementary. So I split my days 50-50 between 2 elementary buildings. And I have to say the changes in my professional growth have really been the best professional development that I have ever done. I love doing the modules for the level 1 and level 2 certification. I loved becoming a Google trainer. I am now a certified Google innovator, and Desiree, that's where I met Desiree when I went to New York City in October. She was my coach during the academy, and then she has continued to support myself and our other teammates on Team Power Up over the last, I don't even, like 10 months. Time kind of escapes you at this point. But that's how she and I connected. And we've been doing this wonderful webinar series. This is our 10th, count them up, 10th one together. And like Desiree had mentioned, I've already suggested to her 3 more webinars. So look for those to come up. And as always, like if you have questions, you want to connect with us, you have our contact information. I love connecting with people on Twitter. Several people have emailed me. I know that I have a couple emails sitting in my inbox that I need to respond to, which hopefully I'll get to later today. But I'm always happy to connect. Like that's how we really make all of this work, is our connections, our professional learning network, learning about different things from different teachers, from other people outside of education. So please do encourage your fellow colleagues, yourself, to just keep on that learning path. That's what we want for our students. So today's focus is Google Sites, which if you've ever wanted to build a website and you've been highly intimidated, Google Sites is the perfect place to start. So the resource that I shared with you today really is very different from the ones that I've shared the other times, with the exception of I built the presentation using the tool that we're going to use. So it gives you a real view, a real feel of the tool that we're going to learn about. Now, I can't put all of you in here as editors and collaborators, and I mean, I guess I could, but that would just really kind of be overwhelming. So there are sharing abilities. There's collaborative abilities. You can have students sharing and doing things. But I'll also show you another way that people can work together on a site without all of the hands intermixing and doing all of the work in a Google site. because that's something to be very conscious of. Sites are meant to be outward focused, right? Whether it's small and it's with just a small group of people that can see the site, or it's out there for everyone to see. So again, if you were with us yesterday, if you were with us with any of the other tools, I do like to stress that you have to have like a very clear purpose in mind. If you just create a site to practice, that's actually still a very clear purpose. And I've done that. Sites has gone through a huge transformation in the last couple of years. There's now the classic Google Sites, which was the site building of old, which was really where I learned how to build a website. I used the classic. And now it's shifted into what you're seeing on your screen is the new Google Sites. And I have to say, there are restrictions, there's boundaries, there's limitations, but quite honestly, I have found them to be super beneficial. I stopped worrying about every little tiny movement of stuff and every little, like, what font do I use in this? And there's some, but it's not that overwhelming choice that's out there and available. So I love that the boundaries, the constrictions can really allow me as the site builder to worry less about the stuff that probably isn't even all that important anyway, and make a much cleaner, nicer, more visually appealing site. So keep all of that stuff in mind. And today we're actually going to build a website. So I'm going to do that. And that's where I really need you to be popping into the chat and, asking Desiree, and she'll relay all that information to me. Hey, I want to put this on my site. How do I do it? I want to do this on my website. How do I do it? Can I add this? Can I not add this? How do I make that happen? So make sure that you're really pushing to Desiree, and she'll get it to me, the items that you want to be able to see. How do I make that happen? Now, I did try to think ahead. I always try to plan and pack my resources with the bigger things, like the more common things, the things that I think the vast majority of us are going to want. So if you look in the top right corner, I've got a little how-tos page. So when you come to the how-tos page, I've got, I think it's 9, 10, right? 4, 8, 10. I have 10 very short videos. I think the longest one is probably 2 minutes, 30 seconds, maybe 3 minutes. I don't think any of them went any longer than that. They're real quick little, this is how you do this. This is how you do this. That is something that I have found to be very effective, not only for teachers, but also for students. If you're trying to encourage them or show them, and that they're similar questions that you're going to get every year or for each project, if you kind of build out your resources in a way that it becomes, I just want to be able to insert a page. How do I do that? It's not necessarily going to one big long video, which can work, and going to different timestamps, but I just recorded short little snippets, and there you go. Just go to that one if you want to insert a page. Go to this one if you want to learn about embedding. Go to this one if you want some initial ideas on how you can customize your site. So these are just real quick, tiny little hitters, and I've got 10 of them. I can always add more, and that's another cool thing about this. So you can add, subtract, all that kind of stuff. And so this is where we're going to kind of start, but know that this is also a resource that you could come back to. So you might want to use the awesome tool in Google Chrome to bookmark this website. You can write this website down. Desiree's, I'm sure, posted it in the chat several more times. It'll come to you when you get the email from her. It's going to be in the show more description on the YouTube video when she posts that up on her YouTube channel. So use this site as a resource. And if we start to get a lot of questions, I can always add more cute little video, not cute, quick little videos to this, after we're done with this webinar. So all I have on the first page, let's go back, is we're going to learn how to build a site together. And then here are just a couple of different features that you might think about putting on your site before we actually get into it. So these are called buttons, these purplish looking, and kind of matches my shirt, doesn't it? It's like a dusky blue purple. Added these buttons to both of our websites, and then the Twitter bird links to each of our Twitter accounts. And then this is just text, which is going to be found on a lot of different websites. Over here, I've got a list And then over here, this is an awesome newish feature because Google Sites, the new one where it started, was really kind of not a lot. And now they've started adding in a lot of different features, a lot of different ways of adding content, a lot of different types of content that you can add. And this one I really love. So check this out. There's this little down caret, reach out, contact us, and then check out this little caret. When I click on it, it drops down this little box. Now, that before they added this in, you had to do some coding and you had to embed some stuff, and it was a little bit of a big process. And now it's just this simple, easy, and I'll show you how to do it. It's great. It's awesome, but it saves a lot of real estate. And that's another thing that you have to be very, very conscious of when you're building a site. I like to look at like what I've got on the screen from the top to the bottom, and I consider that my most valuable real estate. And I can't stress this enough. The more clicks it takes to get to things, the more scrolling people have to do, they're going to do that less. Put in the main space, the heavy hitting stuff that you really, really want people to see. You want them to access the quickness of it. And there's a lot of things that you can do in Google Sites to really kind of maximize this. So keep that in mind as we go through. And then the third page I've built out on here is our resources page. So again, I've got a handful of resources, sites gallery, which they have templates ready to go that you could take and create a site from. I have my Wakelet collection as always with different items about Google Sites. Here's the Google Sites help page. I always like to try to link to that because Google's going to be the one that constantly is keeping that up and constantly adding and updating when they make updates and all that kind of stuff. The Sites training page. So this will give you even more of a breakdown of how to create sites and different ins and outs. And then this other company out here, Stiegel, is probably one of the best resources that I have used when I have questions about, ooh, can I do this on a site? Ooh, how do I do that? Oh, and I do subscribe. They have a blog, I think it is. I'm not sure. But every so often I get these updates from Stiegel, and they've taken what's new and they've really kind of put it out there in a little more meaningful of a way for me. So I really do enjoy using them as a resource too. So again, bookmark this website. It's got all this stuff. And then the other cool feature, and I didn't do this, it just came with the site, is the little magnifying glass. It's pretty cool because now you can search within this site. So if I wanted to search for a wakelet, check it out. It's going to pull back the information on this site. It's not just pulling everything out from, the internet that's already out there, public for everybody, the millions and millions of resources that are out there. It's just looking at this particular site. Let's see if we can pull up email. Okay, so there's, so think about that too when you're building your site. The ways that people are going to be looking for information. Okay, so we're getting ready. The first thing that we're going to cover is how you actually create a site. So putting in the chat, throw things out there to Desiree. She'll pop in when there are questions and they fit in. But sites really can be this big world. So I know that I'm probably not going to be able to cover everything, but throwing things in the chat will help me be able to cover exactly the items that you want. All right. So with that, Desiree, any questions to start off?
We do have a question.
All right.
It's something that you probably will have to get to later, so I can repeat it later as well. But is it possible in a Google site to have a page we could lock or make unpublished? And then kind of along that line, would it be possible to make a page in the site for each class and let students only see their respective page?
Okay, so a couple of things. Sites can be restricted in your publishing, but it's the whole site. You can hide navigation to certain pages if you would like. But as far as like that deep down, this page is only accessible to these particular people, I don't know. I don't know, but I can show you a way that the stuff that you put on there, obviously if you're putting on Google Docs, you're putting on Google Slides, you're putting on sheets and that kind of items. If you're pulling it in from your Google Drive, remember your sharing abilities in Google Drive can allow or not allow certain people to be able to access that. Another thing that I would caution is if you're using Google Sites for your students, don't use sites in place of, if your district is telling you to use a specific LMS, or if they're telling you to use Google Classroom, use that to get to the students the items that you want to get to the students. Google Sites is a website. You know, again, like come back into your mindset. A website is meant for public consumption, right? People to be able to see it. So keep that in mind. And I know that kind of gets into a little bit of muddy waters a little bit, but I've had several teachers ask, well, why would I use a site as opposed to Google Classroom? Well, they're for two very different purposes. So Google Classroom is that ebb and flow of a digital classroom. For students to turn in assignments, for you to assign things, for you to differentiate, for you to share information back and forth with your students. That Google Site, on the other hand, might be the location where you're sharing bigger, broader information to parents. You're not going to assign them the math worksheets or the science quizzes or, you know, watch the social studies video. You're not going to necessarily be giving that to the parents. That would be for your students. So keep those purposes in mind and try not to mix and match. So again, if your school is saying use Google Classroom or a different LMS like Canvas or Schoology or whatever the platform is, use that to communicate back and forth with your students. A site is definitely more on the outward facing piece. So keep that in mind too. And I know that probably didn't answer all of those questions, Desiree. So yeah, definitely pop that back in later on. Okay. So there's
we do have one other one.
Sure.
With regard to language teaching as a second language, can we divide the site by levels and link them together? Can we separate educational resources based on the level?
I would say, yeah, like really the easiest way to do that is to, and we'll get into this later, but maybe create a page for level 1 or intro or whatever you've named that class, and then the next page be level 2. You know, so instead of this saying home, how-tos, resources, maybe it says level 1, level 2, level 3. That's a real simple, right away, quick way of doing it. And again, think about the purpose. Do you want, you know, level 2 to not be able to look back at level 1? That might be some good refresher content. Or if you have some level 1 kids that are really excelling and doing great, could they look at level 2 stuff? But again, that the back and forth with assignments, the items that they're required to do, keep that in your Google Classroom, keep that in your LMS there, but maybe your resources are living on this Google site. So that might be a good way to use them both jointly, but still separately. How's that? Okay, you ready?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so there are 2 ways of creating a Google site, and I've jumped into this other window so that we can have the resource piece in the background, but this is really where we're going to spend the next hour and a half together. Is I've opened up my Drive, because that is one of the really cool things about these new Google sites. And I really was, I jumped up and down and was clapping. I'm like, oh my gosh, yes, it lives in my Drive. You can create them in Drive. They live there. You can access them from your Drive. So it really becomes this complete little environment to keep all of your resources that you're going to put on this site, the site itself, all that kind of goodness is all going to live right here in your Google site. So organization from the beginning is going to be key, in my opinion, to helping you keep your site streamlined and keep the sharing permissions and all of that stuff that has to happen or people are going to be getting a lot of messages saying that they don't have access. So keep that in mind. So what I did was I created a folder in my sites folder. Remember, I like multiple folders here. So all of this information is stuff that I'm thinking I probably want to at some point put on my Google site. So what I'm going to do is I've collected all of this information, and I am going to do something that will help me in the long run with all of my sharing permissions. I'm going to click on this little shark tooth, and I'm going to go to my sharing permissions for the folder, and I want to change my link to, come on, little buddy, to anyone with the link can view. Okay, so this goes back to all of those sharing permissions that are common with docs and sheets and slides and all that kind of stuff. So I've done that for the entire folder. So now you see these little shadow people showing me that it is shared in some fashion. And since I just changed it, I know that I've shared all of this so that other people can view it. Here's where if you want to not allow people, maybe you share it with certain groups of students. You share it with specific people. You can still post it out there, but when people go to click on it, it's going to say you do not have access. You know, if you would like access, please contact the owner. It'll give them a link that they can quickly email you if you wanted. So that can be a way that you can still use a Google site, but restrict the viewing privileges for particular groups of people. And that's an idea. All right, so without further ado, I can go into new. Got to go down to more because it's not one of your top Google creation ideas here. And then it's over here in Google Sites. So that's one way I can go and find and create a brand new Google site. There is one more way. And this, like many of the other options that we have, if you open up a new tab and you type in sites.new, voila, give it a second. You now have created a brand new Google site. Let it load, and then real quickly I'm going to jump on here, visit template gallery, because here honestly is like your third. It's not hidden, but unless you know that there's a template gallery, you don't know that there's a template gallery. And this is a great place for those of us that are brand new to building websites. They have collected a handful. There's not like thousands of them, but there's a good handful of different sites that are already ready. You can click on it and then you have your own copy of it. Pretty sweet. So if you're, and again, here's some ideas for ways that you could use Google Sites. Do you want to build a website for your class? Are you the moderator of a school activity, some sort of a club, and you want to create a website to where you can drive all of your traffic, house all of your information, put it all right there? Here's a template for you. Student portfolio. If you're the kind of teacher that is looking for the ability to have students collect a lot of different pieces and then be able to share that either just with their classmates, with you, or maybe with parents, a student portfolio might be a great place, and here's a template that you could go for. And then likewise for you as a teacher, if you want to create a website that kind of advertises or a means for you to share out, here's a website template that for a portfolio for you as a teacher. Now, if you look, there's going to be like slight nuance differences and all that kind of stuff. Could you personally use a student portfolio website? Sure. Could kids use, especially your older students, could they use that portfolio template? Sure, absolutely. And then when you scroll down, you're going to see that there's a handful more. And again, click on them, use them. They're going to come pre-packaged like some of the other themes that we've talked about in slides and sheets. They're going to come pre-packaged with stuff, but keep in mind you can still do some customization in with that. All right, so keep that template gallery in mind. It might be a great place to start playing. And like I said, if your purpose is you just want to go in and play and create and practice adding stuff, make a practice website. Don't publish it anywhere. You're good to go. Add things on. You can view it as the owner. All right, so I'm going to close that tab out. And here we go. I have created a website. Simple as that. Now, I'm going to go back to my folder and I'm going to refresh my page. And I want to show you, is it in there yet? No, because I have not named it. So I'm going to go ahead and I am going to name my website. So right here is the big title. Here's the title of my website. So I'm going to select all of this. Mrs. Kiefer's site. And you're going to see these little blue boxes popping up and saying, hey, how about this? How about this? I'm not real interested in that. So I've created this. I've given it a title, but I have not yet named this site. So up here in the top left corner, I'm going to click in here now, and I'm going to name this Mrs. Kiefer's website. And that's going to do two things. It's going to give it a name here, and then if you noticed, it dropped it down to here. All of these are individually customizable. They don't have to say the same thing. And then furthermore, you can drag this to make it bigger. And really what I'm doing here is I'm showing you that there's a lot of different formatting ways, even though it's still somewhat constricted. Right now it's pulling a title style. If you want to change it to header, see how it's changing it, and it's changing the whole thing. So it operates like a text box, but in a little bit different of a way. If I want to just bold, maybe I want this to be 2 lines, go crazy with it, right? You can align these in different ways, however you think it's appropriate, okay? So that's pretty cool. Give your site a title. It's showing right up there, and you've just started. This is awesome. And they're going to come with the generic backgrounds. They're going to come with the generic placeholders, if you will. But a really cool thing about a Google site, even if you just start out brand new, sites.new, over here, there's a themes option. Okay, you should maybe remember themes from Google Slides. It's in Google Sheets. There's a lot of different places that you can pull in some themes. And then here's what I suggest. Again, there's not a ton. It's not like there's 500 of them over here. And each one kind of gives you a little bit different of a feel. Again, colors and like images, those are things that you can swap out later. Be looking at the actual layout of your website at the moment. Let's check out that last one. Okay, so you go through and you pick the one that you really like. That's the one I used for our resource over here, is this vision. But maybe today I want to do this diplomat. Now, once I've chosen a theme, notice the different items down here. You can pick out different colors. It's going to change something about this website. Or you can click on the paint bucket. Remember the paint bucket? Remember I said if you can kind of get used to some of the icons and the toolbars, it's going to carry through. There's the paint bucket. Now, you guys know this by now. Red is my favorite color. So I'm going to pick a real nice looking red, and it themes it for you, right? It gives you that color in the background here. Now, another thing that you can do, I'm going to click on the paint bucket again. And here we go, font style. Again, not that there's 8,000 choices, but that's okay. Embrace it. Go with the one that you like the best. Oh, I like that. It's a little bit cleaner. Okay, so we've kind of chosen a theme. I like the box around it, and I've got Mrs. Kiefer's website. I'm happy with that. Okay. So you say, Sarah, what else can I do? Like, what if I don't like that? Looks like maybe as some sort of rounded staircase in the background. All right, we changed that. That's good. So you come over here and you say change image. You can either upload if you have an image maybe you've created, and yes, you can create something in a Google Drawing, download it as a JPEG or a PNG, and then you can upload it to your website. So think about, again, your theme across, you know, whether you're using Google Classroom, a different LMS, if you kind of carry that theme through. I always like to theme it based on the content that I was teaching. So 7th grade was ancient world and ancient religions and world religions, and then 8th grade was American history. So when I themed things, I would theme them in those ideas in mind. So let's do this select image. Let's see what options it gives us. So there's some predetermined images in here. You can scroll through and you can pick some of these. Again, not overwhelming in the least. Decent amount of options, but there's not 8,000 different ones to choose from. You're not going to be sitting here scrolling. You can insert by a URL if you have that. You can just do a search. You can pull from your album, or if you have something in your Google Drive that you want to pull in, you can do it there. So let's search. And today, let's add in, I'm feeling kind of beachy. Let's find a real nice beach scene. Oh, this one's pretty. I love the water. No, let's go with this one. So I'm going to select this one, and I'm going to pop that in. And it goes ahead and it fits it in there. I'm not going to have a lot of customization when it comes to the size or exactly the position of that particular picture. And then if you notice down here in the bottom right-hand corner, it kind of did this little blah, blah, blah kind of wave type deal. What it's doing is it's helping your website automatically look better. And by looking better, it's that contrast between your text and the image behind it. Now, the cool thing is, it's going to do it for you automatically, so you can kind of rest assured in that. But if you hover, notice it goes away if I don't hover on it. If you hover on it, you can remove that, and then it's going to pull the picture in just as you had it. Now, you're going to be the best judge of this, right? Google's AI is constantly trying to make our jobs easier, but it is a computer. It is not an actual human being, so you can overwrite it if you like. I actually kind of liked it a little bit faded in the background. Looks like it makes my words pop a little bit better. All right, so everybody feeling good? Everybody enjoying? Because that beach scene looks really nice. Be nice to dig my toes in that sand, but here in Ohio, we don't have sand or beaches. So, anywho.
We definitely have some questions.
Alrighty.
So going through, we have about 4. If you restrict viewing privileges and grant access, will that person always have to access the site, or will they be prompted to ask for access each time they try to see the site?
If you give them permission to view it, they will not need to have access. What I was talking about is when we get into, if you want to put a Google Doc on here, and you restricted it to your students in period 1, and a student from period 4 clicks on it and they don't have access, it will prompt them to ask for access. Now it's up to you. Does that student from period 4 need to be able to see that? If so, go ahead and grant them access, and then they'll always have access to that. But again, if they don't need it, then don't give them access. Okay. I will say that's also sometimes how I find out that I did not change the sharing permissions. But that's also why I suggested at the very beginning, the items that you're going to put onto your Google site, create a folder, and then make the folder the permission level that you want across the board. You can always come back and individualize them, but make the sharing permission on that top level folder, and then anything you tuck in there is going to grab that. It's going to grab that. Everybody on the internet can see it, not edit, but can see it kind of thing.
Okay, so next question. If my site is linked to my school's website, then can I leave the permissions as anyone with the link rather than public in order for parents to access it?
Yes. Yes.
Next, where did you find the template gallery?
If you remember, it showed up real briefly down at the bottom when I created my website, but I didn't like how it just like goes away. So what I did, I'm going to jump back over. I'm going to switch screens here. On my resources page from the resource that Desiree shared, I've got that site's template gallery right here, because I know that a lot of us are beginning this adventure. Some of us are already long down that road of creating Google sites. I thought that template gallery might be a really, really great place to start. So I've got it linked here. All you have to do is click on it, and it's going to take you to that site's template. So I've got that pre-built in for you on our resources page from the resource that I shared with you for this website. It was resources a lot of different times. I hope that was clear.
And just another quick one, just in case you know of something different. This person, when they tried to change their picture, it worked perfectly. But then when they tried to change it to a certain picture, it won't take. It changed it back to the default. So he was wondering if it could be for copyright or if you knew of anything of why that may happen.
I was having a little bit of an issue last night when I was changing thumbnails, and it did not appear that it changed, but it really did. And my internet was acting a little bit goofy last night. So I kind of wonder sometimes if that happens. Definitely check copyright. So that's why I really like the change image when you go to the select. Come on, little buddy. If I do a search here, I love this little message right here where it says results shown are labeled commercial reuse with modification. That's the level of permission that is the better one to search for stuff. I love that that pulls in, because if you have students creating their own sites, you're resting assured a little bit better that they're using images that are appropriate. I'm also going to tell you another great resource is Unsplash Photos. Unsplash.com is their website URL. They have some pretty phenomenal photographs that photographers have shared, and that you can use them. Like they're free to use. You know, look for that kind of thing. For your particular instance, though, it might be an internet hiccup. It might be that that image is either too small, too large. Maybe it's not sized correctly for putting it in. And this is where I say the restrictions also kind of say to me, if it's not working, it's not meant to be. I'm going to find something else. If it's something you created, like you went into a Google drawing and you laid out this beautiful little image and you want this to be your background for up here, do a check on the actual size of your drawing. If it's too small and then they try to throw it in there, it's just going to get all pixelated. So I would check those couple of areas first. We good?
We are good to go. Thank you so much.
Okay, so a couple other things that you can do to customize this top area right here is this header type. So when you click on that, it's going to give you a couple different options. And this is great, again, for the purpose of what you're doing with your website. So you could have just the title, which to me feels a little bit plain. You could have the banner. You could have a large banner, or you could just have the cover. Go ahead. There you go. So it sizes them out a little bit different. Notice you can see more of the picture. I tend to stick in the banner area to where it's enough of the picture, but again, I keep in mind real estate. I need to make sure that I get to people on my website the fewest clicks and the fewest scrolling that it is absolutely possible. Keep those things in mind, and your website will be a much more successful adventure than if they have to click 10 times to get to this, or they have to scroll. How long do I have to scroll here? Oh, okay, here we go. So keep that in mind. A couple of awesome little things. Now, another awesome little thing that, and I know I feel like I'm getting wrapped up in all of this stuff, but this is really the first thing that people are going to see. You want to make a good impression. You want to have it all nice and neat and tidy, you know, and get ready for your picture and get a good smile. You want to make a good impression. You want people to want to come back to your website. So what you can also do here is notice I have this little add logo when I hover over this header bar up here. So you can add in a small image. It's not going to be this ginormous thing. And you actually have two options, your logo and then your favicon. I love them both. And my suggestion would be to upload the same item to both so that it gives a little bit more of a consistent feel, a little bit cleaner of a look. So I've got a small little icon on my desktop that I'm going to upload. It's this little cute circle right there. I'm going to put that on there, and it's going to upload as my logo. It's also going to give me a couple of items right here, my alternate text. This is becoming increasingly more important that you are aware of and that you utilize. This alternative text is what helps screen readers read this image for those people that are vision impaired or have some sort of vision impairment and they're using a screen reader. So you might want to go ahead and type in text here, Mrs. Kiefer's website logo. And the best advice I can give you is keep it very plain, simple, plain speak. Not frilly, frou-frou-y, highly descriptive, just straightforward. This is Mrs. Kiefer's website logo. Period, done. And then it also does allow you to select some colors that it's pulling from your image, which is kind of cool. So click on them, see what it's going to do. It's going to change the colors down here or some sort of theme, but they're going to pull from the picture that you've uploaded. So again, I'm going to upload the exact same thing, and we're going to see where those items go. Now, the Favicon is something that I fell in love with a couple years ago. It's so incredibly, I don't know, nerdy. It's not important, but maybe it is kind of thing. So I'm going to close out of this. This little logo that I've added here, the Favicon, is going to be what shows up in place of this little site logo after you've published it. So when people come back to your site, they're going to see that as your Favicon. This is a Favicon for sites. This is the Favicon for Drive. People get used to it. They become familiar with it. And then when they bookmark your site, if they choose to take away the text part, the Favicon is what stays on your bookmarks bar. So that's why I recommend the same one in both places so that it's not confusing. It's very consistent. And I love those little tiny things that kind of help become your theme, your logo, your recognition power. So really all we've done is the header, but love it. Get that good, solid, ready to go. And now we are ready to move on to what I would say is the next piece to this. So we're going to come back, and over here, this column is going to become very valuable to us. You've got the insert column, you have pages, and then you have your themes. We've already tackled the themes, and we're going to come back to pages. So to kind of piggyback on what other people have already asked, I'm going to go to my pages column, and down here at the bottom, again, keeping that same feeling from a lot of these other Google applications, that plus sign is going to mean that you can add. Now it's going to allow you to add two things, and we're going to add them both so that you can kind of see the difference here. So number one, I'm going to add a new page, and maybe I'm going to call this 7th grade. I'll pull from my previous classroom experience. I'm going to add a 7th grade page, and I'm going to say done. And it's going to duplicate everything that I had on my home page right here. This is where I do suggest that you make some kind of a change somehow to be able to differentiate better for your students, for your parents, for whomever it is that's your end user, right? So here's where for the header type, you might choose to go title only. Okay, so it's a very different feel, your home page and then 7th grade. You could also add in a different picture. You know, instead of the beach theme, maybe 7th grade, like I said, I taught ancient world. Maybe I pull in, you know, medieval knights or the Silk Road or something that I would have taught to theme it that way. I'm also going to add a page for 8th grade if I can spell correctly. And I'm going to say done. So again, the page that I had open, I had my 7th grade page open. It duplicated that idea for my 8th grade page. Now here's another really cool thing that you can do. Again, to kind of streamline, to keep things a little bit clearer. When you click this add, notice right above it, it says a new link. And you might say, well, I can add links all day long on my pages. Yes, you can, but here's a really cool thing that you can do. If you're going to say, I want to add a new link, maybe I want to link them to my website, my Tech You Can Do website. So I'm going to title that Tech You Can Do. And maybe this is for you, maybe it's the link to your school's website. Maybe it's the link, if you're doing a group, maybe it's the link to other groups in your school. Like maybe they have a landing page of some kind. And yes, you can open up a new page, copy and paste the URL. I know this one off the top of my head, so I'm going to click on that. And then I just want to show you this little option down here because this option down here I utilize all the time. I always have links open out in a new tab. And that's because I always want people to be able to see where they're coming from. Because if they go down a rabbit hole on that new tab and they want to come back to this particular site, it's going to be a lot of that back arrow, click, 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 click. And like I said, I'm a person that's a big believer in the fewer clicks to get where you need to be, even if you've gone down a great rabbit hole, but you ultimately need to come back. If you have these links open in a new tab, because you're actually going to be sending them outside of your website, it just makes everything a whole lot easier. So be conscious of these things. I do believe that this is always set on. Now, page on my website. Tells me that that is a different story. So watch what happens when I click on this link as opposed to this page. So I'm going to go to my 7th grade page, 8th grade page. When I click on this, that is actually a link, it opens up a new tab. Remember, I told it that I wanted it to open up in a new tab. So it's going to do that, and then it's going to give me this little redirect notice. Are you sure you want to go here? Yep. And then it takes you to that page that you had linked it to. So again, I could go down a great rabbit hole on this website, but quick access to come back to Mrs. Kiefer's website, that tab is right there. So those are two very important thought processes to have very clean in your mind. If you put this as your school's website, it'll open up out here, but you still have your website open right next to it. So that's pretty awesome. And then again, if you need to make any adjustments, do you see when I hover over, you've got your world's skinniest snowman. You can click on there. You can do a couple of different things. If you have an entire page that you want to duplicate, if you want to change that page to be your home page, you can look at the properties for it. You can add a sub page to this, and it's going to give you, so let me add a sub page, and maybe we do unit 1, and I say done. Do you notice now how I have that down caret and I've got unit 1? You could do this all day long. Let's make another subpage, unit 2, and then so on and so forth. Okay, so again, you're breaking out your information and you're giving students a more streamlined feel when you're creating this. Likewise with a group, if you have certain things that you want to keep here and then you have a sub page because it's digging down a little bit deeper, use these sub pages. It's really nice, and then they'll have access to them when they hover over that page name. All right, so questions as far as that goes?
Does only work on pages, or can you link to other websites through icons on a page?
You absolutely can. So let's go to my homepage, right? So a couple of things, and this is where we're going to get into our inserting. So it's a great, nice little segue right here. So I want to insert, let's put a link on my homepage, because again, this is going to be the major real estate for us. So I might want to add in a button, and this is going to be email Mrs. Kiefer. And I want to give parents and or students the quick ability to email me. So I'm going to type in my email. If I could spell, sorry, make sure you do spell it right, otherwise it's not going to work. And then I'm going to say insert. So what I've done is I have put in a link. I can adjust this button. And then when people come to my website, they can click on this button and it will open up. If they're on their phone or if they're on a website, on a computer, they'll be able to quickly access their email to send me something. I love doing this. You do have a couple of options here. I just want to show you. It could be filled in. So it's going to be filled in with your theme color. Remember, we picked that theme color. It's going to be either filled in. It could be outlined. So it's more or less a white button with outline to it, or you could have it just be text. Completely up to you. There's no right or wrong. I tend to like these things to stick out because I feel like this is an important thing. Now, what you can also do, and I do this numerous different ways, but here's one option that you could do. So let's say on your website, you want to link it to maybe my blog. You want to give people quick access to it. That'd be great. I know we're talking more like textbooks or particular sites that have really great information for your content. I totally get that. So what I'm going to do here is I'm going to insert, and I'm going to look down through my options that I have, and I'm going to say, oh, I kind of just want to insert a picture. I want to insert an image, and I'll say, no, oh, I clicked on map. I'll say, no problem, no problem. So again, like most Google tools, you can double click and it brings up some options. This one would be your images. And again, if you have the URL, you could do a Google image search, your photos, your drive. Great, right? But if you look behind this page, you notice I've got my little image right here. So maybe I want to pull that in. So I'm just going to literally drag and drop it on. So I took that image, I brought it over. And again, use this for your textbook, use this for your school website, for whatever link that you would like to do. Using these blue circles, again, you know this from slides and docs and all that kind of stuff. You can change the sizing of it. And then here's your little link button that you can add in a link. Ooh. Apply that. And then when they click on that picture, it's going to take them out. So again, keeping all of these pages clean, maybe you choose not to have that up here. You want to add it down here. And then what I would suggest is you can duplicate this picture and adjust it using the skinny snowman. Maybe you want to replace it. Again, here's adding alternate text for those screen readers. So you could say link to tech you can do blog. I hope that I just clicked off of that. Did that add? Sorry. And then I'm going to say apply. And then screen readers, when it reads over that image, it's going to tell them that. Another great option for if you're going to be adding numerous links is what I would do is come over here to your insert, and they have these layouts that make it so incredibly easy to add in multiple different icons and images. And you can see like the little mountain picture over here, and then they've got a little bit line of text. This one has a lot more lines of text. This has 2 big images. And so you might want to, and this is what I did for my resources page. I used this layout. So I added that in here, and then on that plus sign, these are called little placeholders. So I'm going to click that plus sign. I can upload, I can select, I can use Drive, I can do a YouTube video, whatever you're really looking to add on to here. But I could upload, and here again is that lovely picture. And it's going to size it to that particular spot. And then here's where you can add in text, so on and so forth, add in some sort of description. And then you know that when you add in the next one here in that placeholder, it's going to keep them sized the same, which really, really, really is helpful when you're a new site builder to keep things looking very clean. You're not worried about, well, this one's like a ½ an inch bigger and that one's smaller and all those different kinds of things. And you can, again, take a big, deep breath. If you use this style of text, and they have it labeled as a subheading, and this one is labeled as normal text, duplicating that over and over again, or having to select, and okay, I'm gonna make that bold, and using these layouts really kind of helps keep that theme. And I can add in another layer right there, and you can see it just duplicates for me. So let's say you know you have 10. Duplicate, duplicate, bring in those images, click, add in your information, and you're good to go. It really is amazing. So I hope that helps. You could also just add in text. So if I do a double tap, or over here, it's these 4 options up here at the top. If you just want to add in text, add in some text. Again, check out your formatting options if you would like, bolding, italicizing, where you're going to have it. See, you got this link here too. So again, where my cursor was, I don't want to link that, so I'm going to click off of it. I'm going to click on the whole text box, and let's see what this pencil allows me to do. Okay, so I'm going to select all of this. I'm going to insert a link. And notice it's telling me that this is what is going to become the link. It's the text that's showing up here. And I'm going to, you guys are going to know my website by the end of this if you don't already. And notice now it has that little underline, which does indicate to people that that is a hyperlink. Now it doesn't turn it the blue, but that's okay because it's keeping it in that same color scheme that my whole website is built around. All right, so at this point, you might go, wow, I've put a lot of different things on here, but are these blue boxes going to be showing up? Like, what about this white space? What does that really look like? These little boxes here with these click to edit text and all that kind of stuff. What does that really look like? And this is an awesome feature of sites. It does show up in a lot of the other applications too. The preview button, Google Forms, you're well aware of that with that. It's the present button in Google Slides. Keep those kinds of things in mind. Sites has it too. It looks a little different. It's the different computer with the little tiny mobile device sitting on top of it. So when you click preview, here's what your website really will look like to the outside viewer, whether that is a group of students, it's your parents, it's public out there on the web. This is what it will look like. And I love this because I can see very quickly the things that I have done to my website. And I notice that I've got a lot of blank space over here. Maybe I'm okay with that. When I scroll down, oh, my little placeholders. So if I don't put something in there, I probably don't want to leave them on there because, excuse me, they're going to show up as these little boxes with the dotted lines around them. Is that a good thing or a bad thing? It might create some questions. People might go, well, what the heck is that? And then I might be getting an email like, hey, Mrs. Kiefer, what are these boxes down here? Like, is that something for me? Is that broken? Like, what's going on? It might just be a way to inspire people to send you emails that are just not necessary. So always, always, always preview your website. Other cool features of previewing your website is we know that in this day and age, people are not just accessing websites from their computers. And probably by and large, people are accessing them from their phones more than anything else, especially if you are sending this out to parents of your students and they're probably pulling it up on their phone a lot more than they're pulling it up on their computer. So down here, you do have some options. If you click on the middle icon down here, it's going to take your website and it's going to render it as to what it would look like on most tablets. Now, keep in mind, this is not going to be, this is going to be like a good idea for you, but depending on how big or small the tablets are, because they all come in different sizes these days, it might be slightly different. So you can see up here, if I start getting in a ton more pages up here, it's going to trail off and you're going to maybe not be as effective with whatever those pages are out there. If you add in tons more of these layouts here, people are going to have to start scroll. Is that a bad thing? Not necessarily. You have to preview this and see what works best. And what it also does is it shows you what it will look like on a phone. And this is my favorite feature because Desiree and I did a different webinar and it was scheduled for an hour. It actually went over a full hour. So we were there together for 2 hours. And it was me showing how I have used Google Slides as well as Google Sites to create an app that I have shared out. One of my other hats that I wear as a teacher is the DC coordinator for our 8th grade Washington, DC trip. So I knew that keeping all the information together, and then while we're on the trip, everybody's using their phones. We're not pulling out computers while we're on the trip. So I formatted it, and every time I would preview, every time I would add something or subtract something or want to think about putting something on this, I came in here to preview and I looked at it on a mobile phone, because I knew that that was where probably 95% of our people were going to be accessing this. So I looked at here what it would actually look like, and notice how it takes all of those tiles from that layout and it drops them down into a tall list, a column, instead of the side-by-sides. This is called being responsive. And if you notice, it has made the top part about a bunch smaller. You don't see any of the navigation up here at the top. Instead, it gets pushed over into our little sidebar, the little hamburger menu. So, and it is a pretty live-ish version when you're talking preview. And then here are your pages that you've created. This indicates that there are sub-pages. And yes, if they do click on these, they can preview. You know, you as the builder, you as the creator, you will be able to preview what these pages look like, all the while staying in preview mode, not jumping out into these different crazy places. And it does give you a pretty accurate rendering. And then to go back to your editing version, because remember this is just preview, click that little X and we're back to editing. Okay, I'm gonna pause there for a second. We've talked about layouts. We've added in a button over here. This is one of my favorites. I really do like this. We've added in some text. We've added in some images. We've added in some pages, some links. Before I move on, any questions with all of this stuff?
I just have an opinion question. When you're linking it to Google Classroom, where would you suggest putting it on your site?
Okay, so in my scenario here that I've built out, I would go to my 7th grade page, and I would put the Google Classroom icon here, because I might also, for my 7th graders, put the link to the textbook. We had a digital textbook that we used. I might also put a link to maybe a YouTube channel that I had created that I had put a bunch of videos on. So keep it simple. And again, if you were with us for our Google Classroom one, don't look at it from you, the teacher perspective. You're the one building it. You're going to know where everything is. You're going to be able to find it. But look at it from your student's perspective. So I would sit here and I'd go, okay, if I was a 7th grader in Mrs. Kiefer's class, what would make sense? So homepage, great. Email Mrs. Kiefer, okay. School website, okay. Blah. But when I go to, I'm a 7th grade, I'm going to go to 7th grade. If I put that Google Classroom icon here, I would link it to the Google Classroom, right? So it keeps your 7th graders kind of living in that same world. So keep that kind of thought process. Like, what does it look like for your user as opposed to me, the teacher? Because I think that's something where, oh, I like to organize it like this. I want to right, but you're the teacher. You're going to know where everything is because you're putting it on there. But you've got to think of your end user, your parents, your students, people like that. So, and again, that's where if you put the Google Classroom icon on here, even if outsiders have access to Google Classroom, they're not going to be able to access yours, right? Because they're not in your class. So. You might want to embed. You might want to take a Google Doc or a Google Slide or a Google Sheet or whatever, a PDF, something, and bring it over and keep it in your website, like maybe your syllabus, right? So that's where I've got my Google folder over here, and I've got all of these items that I want. This one right here, this copy of insert audio, explains to my students how they can insert audio onto a Google slide. It's not the slickest, simplest, like one-click kind of thing, so I created a Google Doc to help support them. So what I'm going to do is I want to put that on my website for my 7th graders. So I can do this a couple different ways. If I double-click, I can embed something, I can add in an image and then link it to that Google Doc, I can upload from somewhere, or I can just go ahead and insert it from my Drive. So I'm going to click on my little Drive icon. And remember, I have it all saved in that folder. I know what the title of it is, so I'm going to say copy of insert. Go ahead and search for it. There it is. That's the one I want. I'm going to insert there. And notice I'm pulling from my Drive. I'm going to bring it over. And I've now taken that Google Doc that lives in my Google Drive, and I've brought it in here. Remember, my sharing permissions are important here. Now, I don't feel like it needs to be this giant page, right? It doesn't need to take up the whole thing. So I'm going to use the blue buttons. I notice if I just shrink it width-wise, it kind of gives me a much better view. I almost can see the whole document. So you may want to scroll down and pull it a little bit. And then lovely. And then you say, oh, well, what does that look like for my kids? Because Sarah's always saying, I got to look at it from my students' point of view. Click on your preview button. Let's see what it looks like. Okay, now remember, the last one that I looked at was on a phone. I'm going to click on what does it look like on a computer screen. And here you go. It's a little bit of scrolling, and I can go back and I can be kind of fussy and I can kind of get it to be exactly where I want it to be. But it is a multi-page document, so maybe it's not the worst thing to have a scroll bar, right? Okay, so that looks good. So I've embedded that Google Doc. Maybe I want to add in our class this year. We're working on collecting photos for our class, and a handful of photos have already been sent to me as the teacher. So over here, I have added in a Google slide, because that's what we're going to do. We're just going to be adding in pictures on this Google slide, and I want to be able to share that. So I've got this Google Slides. If you wanted to, you could click on it once. So it's blue. Tap your P on your keyboard. You're going to be able to preview what this is. And yep, that's the right thing. Awesome. And I'm going to come back to my website, and I want to come over here. And this time, because remember last time I did a double tap on my mat, my layout screen here. Over here, you can also click on the Drive. And again, I'm going to search for class photos. And it's going to pull back, thinking. There it is. That is what my cover page looks like. Excellent. I'm going to insert that. And notice it's going to drop it down below. But I say, well, I don't want it there. I want it to be up at the top, because real estate is important. And this is something that I want quicker access to. So I'm going to pull it up here. That blue shadow is going to show me where it's going to show up on my website. And again, clicking on it, maybe you want to make it a bit bigger. And you can see very much it looks like a Google slide deck. Now, you're not going to be able to navigate through your slides. Remember that preview button? Yep, let's go to that preview button. And see how you got your doc over here, you got your slides here, and then you can, in preview mode, oh, look at these beautiful, like these kids went on such great vacations this year. Oh, look at that. Isn't that wonderful? Love it. Now, I literally just embedded that slide. So that'll be something that will continue to grow over time with my students. They'll be able to add in pictures. It was just pictures. Maybe you want to have something like that, but the kids also have to add in text. Build that out in your Google Slides, right? You could also do the publish to web, where it'll continually run. So you set it to each slide lasting 5 seconds or something like that, and then your slide deck will play on your Google site. Another option for my 8th graders, though, is I want to maybe share specific photos, and I want it to show up a little bit different. So over here, there's another way that you can add in photos. You have this image carousel. A lot of websites will have this, right? So here you're gonna have to upload some images. And when you click that little plus sign, very much like the placeholders that we saw in the layout, you can either upload or you can select. Go ahead. And what I did was back here on my drive is I made a folder for these photos, and I've got a handful of them in there. I took these from Unsplash Photos because you're allowed to, but that's where I'm housing them. Maybe you share this folder with your students and they're popping them in this way. It's another way of collecting photos, right? So I'm going to go to my Google Drive. I'm going to have to go through all this, find my folder. I'm getting there. You can see I love folders inside of folders inside of folders. You're seeing inside my brain at the moment. Oh, not 15 done. I need 25 active. I'm getting there, people. I promise. I promise. Okay, site to build. Here we go. Phew, I'm finally there. So I'm going to go into this, and I am going to hopefully select all of them. Click on the top one, hold the shift key, click on the last one. It tells me down here I have 5 selected. I'm going to say insert. Think, think, think. Think, think, think. There we go. Think, think, think. Love it. So I'm going to say insert. And then I'm going to have this, what they call image carousel. And again, changing your sizes. It's a matter of clicking those buttons. And then you see the 5 little dots because I added in 5 images. Again, if you want to, I always suggest when you're trying something new like this, check it out in preview mode. Clicking, clicking, clicking. People can scroll through the photos and it becomes that loop. So that's another cool, awesome built-in feature of Google Sites. I love that. Now, we can also add in a bunch of different things down here. I did not mean to click on that. Probably one of my favorites is the calendar. Again, if you use Google Classroom, it's going to automatically create a calendar when you date any of your assignments. It's going to take that date with that assignment and pop it onto your Google Classroom calendar for that particular class. This is another great way then possibly of sharing with your parents that view without them having to get into Google Classroom, because that's where your students need to be, not them as the parents need to be. So maybe you want to add a calendar to your website. This I love for my DC trip. We have the calendar on there. It's just so simple because I lay out our whole trip for our parents. So the calendar, here are all of the calendars that I have access to. And holidays, you can do your personal calendar. Here's a classroom calendar. I'm going to include this particular calendar. So you can select, and I'm going to say insert. And then here you go. It's just going to take all of those pieces that you have on your calendar and it's going to show it here. Now, if you don't particularly care for this view, don't freak out because there's the little gear symbol up here. You can always do some customizing here. Maybe you don't need the title. Maybe you do. Maybe you don't want to show the date. Maybe you do. The navigation buttons, maybe you don't want to give them the option to look at them in different ways, right? You don't want them to go too far. Maybe you do. Maybe you are teaching a class internationally. I mean, I'm not, but you guys are all here, so maybe I want to show the time zone that these are happening in. Some of it, down here, check that out. Or you could say use the viewer's time zone. That might be helpful. And then down here, you can actually force the mode if you would like. So maybe you just want it to show up as a month calendar. Maybe you want to force it to show as a week calendar. Or maybe you want to leave it as the agenda. So you can do some customizing in there as well. It's really nice, really nice. So we say done. And again, adjusting the sizes if you would like to. It works out really nice. The other feature that it does automatically include is this plus Google Calendar. You might want to instruct your parents that on their phones, if they are using their phones for this more so, if they click on that, it will allow them to add your classroom calendar on top of all of the calendars that they have. That gets into maybe Google Sites level 2 or level 3. If you think about it, keeping your calendar on here is great for parents. They can view it, quick access, they can see everything that's, and again, in the view that they would like. In preview mode, you can click through that. Highly suggest doing that. Okay, questions over any of that chunk of information?
Not right now.
Okay, the other thing is you can drag around items on, oops, I did not mean to do that. So I'm going to do Control Z real quick. Fantastic shortcut, Control Z undoes your last action. I just want to put this side by side. And notice the blue lines are going to indicate where it's going to go. You put on top of, on the bottom, maybe you want it over here to the left. And it's going to do some of that automatic resizing for you. If you say, oh, that photo gallery now is too big, you can adjust that. Maybe you still want this to be a little bit longer. Love it, right? Absolutely love it. Check that out. It's pretty sweet. All right. Other things that you can add in, check them out over here. A table of contents might be something smart that you put on your homepage to better help navigate, which brings me to another thing. You don't have to have the items up here if you don't want to. Remember when you go into the mobile preview, it pops them out over to the left under that little hamburger menu. If you would like, you could force that from the beginning and not have all of these items up here at the top. So over here, notice that a lot of time hovering over things will make you aware of new pieces or, oh, I didn't know I could do that. Check it out. So click on that little settings gear wheel. There's a handful of items over here that can be truly very helpful in developing and creating your website. And don't feel like you have to do all of this from the beginning. Get your website up. Maybe it's a bare bones website. And as you move on, you're adding, you're adjusting, you're shifting things around. Keep it simple and keep that user in mind. If you're going to do a major overhaul of your website, let people know before you do that. But some of these small changes aren't really, in 2020, are not going to make or break your website. So if you want to, you can change the navigation mode from being at the very, very top of your website. You could push it and force it to be on the side. And now you notice that little hamburger menu. And then the other awesome thing here is right now it's a transparent header piece. You can click on here and it's going to give you just a few options. Again, embrace the restrictions for what they are. Don't fight against them. I do believe at some point, unless it shows you that there's an ability to customize, just go with it. And worst case scenario, you don't like that, you switch it to something else, or you go back to the transparent and you're happy.
I can help with.
But while we're here, let's look at some of these other pieces. That brand items was our logo and our favicon. The viewer tools, check this stuff out. This is not something as a teacher that I would really focus a whole lot on. The analytics, again, that's more of a level 2, level 3 type piece, but the announcement banner is awesome. And this has just come about, I'd say, I don't know, recently, it hasn't been around for forever. So if you've ever made a Google site and you're like, well, I've never heard of this, it is relatively new. And what I love about it is this is something that you might think about frequently updating. And you've probably seen it on a lot of sites recently where it shows up at the very, very top and it gives you some sort of like, beep, 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 like, look at me, it's important that you notice this kind of thing. So I'm gonna say, yes, I do wanna show this banner. And I might provide a message and say, welcome to my site. I'm so glad we are going to spend the year together. Now notice down here, you are going to be limited on your characters. You're only gonna have a max of 150. Something that I found out is you could put in emojis. So copy paste emoji website. There's so many different websites out there. Google it, find it, copy an emoji, bring it back over here. You can also add in a button label. Again, you're limited to 25. You can put a link into that. And you can even say when they click on that link, I want it to open up in a new tab. Those are all things. Play with them, see which ones you like, see what works best for you and your website. I'm going to keep it real simple right now. I'm just going to add that message. I'm going to look at what option do I have for color, because this is going to really make it stand out. It's going to be a nice big thick bar across the top. So I've got the beach theme going. Red's my favorite color. Maybe you want to look at black. That probably would stand out pretty nicely. So let's check that out. Please also notice down here, it's my favorite little button, the add custom color button. You could customize it if you like. But let's go with black, and it's not one that's going to automatically show you what that preview looks like. But I am going to go ahead, click out of that. There you go. Look at how nice and bold that is. It really stands out up there. It really does draw your eye to it. And then if you really want to check out and see what it looks like, let's go into our preview mode. And look at how the site has changed. I've got the navigation over here to the left. It's very clear on a computer. I've got my banner up here. These two kind of look like they complement each other pretty nicely. And then I have the body of my website here. If I want to go to a different page, wow, look how nice that calendar looks with my little image carousel over here. If I want to scroll through, I'm going to go back to my 7th grade page. I got my doc over here. This is what my kids will look like when they pull it up on their computers. This is what parents would see. Now, again, I'm thinking a lot of them probably will be using their mobile device. Maybe you're a school that has iPads or tablets for the students. Let's check and see what it looks like on a mobile device. Again, it flips that navigation. You have to click on it to open it up, but it's all right there. And then you see how it kind of shifts things slightly. It's going to put things in a more column fashion, but your header, your banner up here is still going to show up. Pretty cool. And you could change that out. I'm going to get out of that, go back into my editing mode. You could change that out as time goes on. You could change that to reflect the time of year, or if you have an important message that you want to get out to parents, they're only going to see it if they come to your website. So don't take this as a way that you can get around like sending emails or notifying your parents or communicating with them, because they're only going to see any of this stuff if they actually come here. They're not going to come to your website if you don't put stuff on there that they want to see. Okay, so that's the drawback to a website. If you don't build it out well and you don't put anything on there of value, or you just throw a bunch of links on there, what's the purpose of your parents, your students coming back to your website? So, if you kind of keep things a little bit fresh, if you're putting good information on there, if you're reminding them to go to it. Oh, which by the way, once you name it and you publish it and all that kind of stuff, you could put the link to your website in your email signature. That's the word I was looking for. So on your signature, you could go ahead and put the link to it right underneath your name, and then parents will constantly have very, very quick access. That is something, again, to be conscious of with the user experience is we're not, and you could tell them to bookmark it. You really could. Hey, bookmark my website. If they're looking at it on their phones, I don't know that too many parents are really looking to bookmark stuff on their phones to be able to do this. So keep in mind the user piece. Build it out nicely, but also continue to push people to it. Which, let's see, what else did I tuck in here that I was thinking? Oh, maybe I want to put a picture of myself on here. That might be a good association for my students and my parents. Who is this person? Who is she? What's her face look like? A lot of our parents aren't coming into our classrooms, especially this year more than ever. So maybe record a video, put it on there on your website for parents and students to be able to see. Put your photo on there. I do have my little Bitmoji as part of this thing. Maybe that would be better if it was a photo of me. I don't know. Those are the things that you can customize, that you can play with, that you can check out and go forward with. Now notice I have a PDF. Well, Sarah, can you insert a PDF on your website? Well, sure. And notice this one is Casey Bell, phenomenal resource. She put this out there for everybody, Google Classroom cheat sheet for students. So I'm going to preview this, and oh, it does not look nice. Oh, I think this would be a great resource for my students. Okay, so I've got it saved in my drive. She has it on her website. So what I'm going to do is let's try this other option because it's a PDF. Sarah said I can do this. I'm going to do a 2-finger tap. I'm going to get the shareable link. I'm going to copy this. I'm going to say done. Only put things out there that you know. And Casey has put this out there. Like it's out there on her website. So I'm not taking her stuff and trying to pass it off as my own. It's clearly themed for her. But I do feel like this might be a good resource for my students to have. What page am I going to put it on? You know, I think I'm going to put it on my homepage because I think that'll be the most valuable for my students. Oh, maybe I could put it here. Interesting. I wonder, well, but it's a PDF. Okay, so I'm just thinking through some of this stuff. So what are my options if I do this double tap? Get an image, embed. Ooh, let's check out this embed thing. We haven't done this yet. So remember I copied the shareable link. So I could come up here and let's try pasting it in and see what happens. Oh, it takes it. So if I have it saved in my drive and I know that I can share it out, and I grab that shareable link because I made that link public, I can go ahead and put that here. It's going to make it for me. It's awesome. I'm going to say insert. So here's another way that you could insert items maybe you have in your drive or somebody has shared out there for you to also be able to share. And I'm pulling this down because I do think I want to make it look like it's a full page. So if I keep this here for students and I kind of build out my home page as like a resource page, or maybe I decide later I need to add on a page for resources, maybe I do that too. So again, let's see what that looks like. Okay, so probably on here, we scroll down. Where is it? Uh-oh, where did it go? And this is why previewing is super important. I'm not sure where that is. So I'm gonna have to go back in. Okay, so it is there. All right, maybe it just needed a second. Maybe if I refresh my page. And now let's preview it. See if it's there. There it is. So again, you see this scroll bar, this little pop-out arrow, this, I wouldn't call this the share, this is the pop-out arrow. If they click on this, it will take you out into a new page, and then they can see this PDF. I don't know that it's just a functionality, it's a piece that's already there, but they can just scroll down and they can see, oh, like, hey, that's pretty nice. You know, Casey does a great job of the way she shares out these items and makes it very clean and all that. So this is a great resource that I think my students, not that they're going to need it a whole lot, and if they've used Classroom before, they probably won't ever need it, but it's also a nice way, if this is built for students and they're at home, this could also work as a parent resource in a way. Casey just has it themed for students. So that's really nice. So I know I can add in PDFs. What else did I tuck in here? Oh, a Google form. Right? Google Forms are great ways of collecting information. And if you joined us yesterday, they're also great for assessments if you use them in the right way, and that's awesome. So what if you want to add a Google form to this website? Maybe it's a Google form for parents to, instead of putting an email button, because you don't want 8,000 different emails, I don't know, maybe you could collect all of that information through a Google form. So what I did was I created that Google form. I created it themed as a check-in. So I just want students to be able to check in with me. So I've created it, create whatever form that you would like. You could take a button and insert the button and call it check-in. And then for the link, you go, oh, gotta get that link, right? So come back, I'm actually going to go ahead and open this up to make sure that I get the right link. I'm going to go into my preview. This is what I want people to see. So I'm going to copy that, come to my website. I'm going to paste that link. I'm going to insert that. Oh, now see it pops it down to the bottom. So now I'm going to have to click on it, get my little 4 arrows going, drag it up, and I want it to be right here. Maybe I'm going to shift it over here to the right. But now I can't see all of it, so I got to make it bigger. Okay, there we go. So when people click on that, it's going to open them out into a form. Also, I'm going to come down here next to Casey's PDF, double tap. Again, I have the URL already copied. Let's see what this looks like. Go ahead, embed. Again, I have the URL, so I'm going to click on that. It's going to give me a preview. So this time it's actually going to show the form on my site. So it's not that clicking out of option. So I could, in preview mode, let's see what this really looks like. If I click on this, it's going to take me out to the form. If I come down, I could just go ahead and fill this out. Sarah, today's date. I love this little calendar feature is the 31st. I'm feeling happy today. Keep scrolling. I feel like this because I love sites. I'm feeling good about the weekend. Something I need to work more on is, oh, I got lots of things. Time management for sure. And something that I need help with is, quite honestly, my physical therapy. So working on the shoulder. My husband reminded me that it's a 6 to 12 month process. I'll get there. And I'm already a lot better than I was. And I hit submit, and now I'm generating that Google Sheet that I have access to, right? So you responded, you could fill it out again. Obviously, I mean, I did that as a preview, but it was actually kind of live. So there you go. Now, keep in mind, you do that with the form. If you have that blue button, you might need to make it smaller. Again, you start playing with these things, you could get a little fussy with them, but ultimately it's up to you to customize all of this stuff. All right, Desiree, any questions before I toss in a few extra other or not?
So we do have a question. Mary just clarified her question for us. And she said that when you put the cheat sheet from Casey Bell on the site and pasted the link in it, the link ends with share, but after the last, it says view. Would you suggest leaving the entire link or shorten it or shorten to the view?
Since I have it in my drive, I would just copy whatever that link is, because again, I've created this folder and I've created it so that all of the items that are in here are viewable to anyone that has that link. I like keeping them together in that way so that I kind of keep the sharing permissions. When I put it in, okay, so that's the form and get rid of it. Here's the site. So when I put it in here, the link ultimately doesn't matter because this is a PDF anyway. It's a PDF. It's not something that I'm expecting my students to copy. It's not something, and if they click on it and they go out to that, oh, that's the form. That's hovering over here. If they go out to it, it's going to open that link in Drive. It's not going to give them any kind of access to my Drive. I don't think there's any pro or con to changing that link. Now, when you're talking something more like a Google slide or a Google Sheet, that might be where those specific changes are going to be important, depending on the purpose of what you're putting on. So this doc that I put on seventh grade, that audio, that would be where it might be important that you change that URL link. Does that help?
Yes, I think it was just thinking through the process. And we have one other question. Can you share your daily check-in Google form, or is it in the resources?
Actually, it's not. It's just something that I whipped up. Let's see. How about this? How about I add it onto the resources page? Because if you were here with us for forms, it doesn't copy the same way like a Google Doc. Like I couldn't just do, actually, let's try that. What if I think, did I find that out? If I just change that to copy.
Yep. You'll force them to make a copy.
I wonder if I have to, hang on.
Oh, where it says edit.
Yeah, I did.
No, that's a whole different, go back to that one.
This one. See, I just wish sometimes, good grief, my typing.
There
okay,
you go.
So actually, let's do this. Let's get a pretty view of it. Hang on, people. This is technology in action, isn't it? So let's get a nice view of this. Get rid of that one. I love screenshots. Let's do this. And honestly, you guys, there's nothing super pretty, fancy, special. This is a lot of things that I've heard teachers say that they would like to know. It's just real quick emojis. Why do I feel like this? And I do require all of these because I feel like if you let students opt out of answering some of these questions, you might miss out on some important information. Just thinking. Maybe they don't have to fill it out every day. I don't know. This might also be another attendance tracker if you're a teacher that's going to be required to keep attendance some way. I don't know. All right, so now I'm going to have to go into, here we go. I'm going to edit the site. Go ahead, click on that little pencil. There we go. Sorry, patience is not always my strong suit. Ask my daughters. And here's where I took out that, remember I said on the layouts, if you keep popping them over, I took that out on here so you didn't see that random square. So here's what I'm going to do. Actually, I'm going to click on this because it's that one right there, and I'm going to actually copy, and then I'm going to paste it. Nope, cancel that. Cancel, cancel. So let's copy this. Actually duplicate, no, remove, hang on. Actually, let's just do this. Let's add in here, and I'm going to click, and I'm going to pull that up, and then I'm going to pull that up, and I made these boxes a tad bigger. Whoa, there you go. This is check-in form. I'm going to now upload that screenshot that I took. To find it, there it is. I can, and this is another cool feature that we haven't jumped into yet. If you do a little double tap on that image, you can, maximize, you can zoom. You want, because remember, I'm keeping my tiles all the same size. I'm going to get rid of that because I don't have anything to add in there. And then I made all of the images the link. So then I'm going to come back here, change my edit to copy. Thank you, Desiree. Copy that. And then I'm going to insert my link, apply. And here is a key thing that I cannot tell you I have forgotten so many times. Like I will be honest, it doesn't just automatically happen live. Google form for students. Sorry, I got to get this in here. Students to check in. Okay, so I've got that. If you're on this resource, you will not see this. I have to come up here now to my publish button, and it's going to show me side by side. This is what is currently published, and this is the draft. So it's going to keep me right there, and it's going to show me, it's kind of outlined. It'll be outlined in some kind of a color that this is what it used to look like. This is what you're going to make it look like. And then you click publish. And now if you're on my published site, it will now allow you to refresh, and then you will have that check-in form. You can make a copy of it. Now, that's getting me into where we need to wrap this all up. When I am ready to publish, I've got it built out to where I want it to be at the moment. Keep in mind, add stuff to it, keep funneling new things into it, keep encouraging people to come back to it. But now we need to publish. And this is where you do have some, again, some customization pieces. So your publish button is up here. I'm gonna go ahead and click publish. It's going to kind of generically pull in your title, but look at this whole thing right here. So I'm in my Google Trainer education domain. So it's going to have sites.google.com/ here is my school domain, techyoucando.com/ and then it's going to generically create this website name for you. You can stick with it, that's great. Not a big deal. Keep it plain and simple. Don't type in something that's going to be all this wild and crazy. It's going to take forever. And then down here is where you can get into some of those restrictions onto who can and cannot see this. So right now, it's just anyone that's in my Google Trainer domain. So if I were to publish this and I were to share the link with you guys, none of you are in my domain, so none of you would be able to see it, even if you had the link. That's nice, except for if you were a parent of a student in my school, you wouldn't be able to see it, which is a problem. So I'm going to click on this manage button, and very much like the other share settings, I'm going to change it. So when I publish it, it's going to be more than in this domain. I'm going to anyone with the link. Well, that's for the draft. The published site is going to also be public. Maybe for the draft, you just want it to be restricted and it's only the editors, and then your published site is public. So then you say done. You can change this web address, but I'm going to suggest something different to make it a little bit easier. If you don't like this, change it. But again, keep it simple and straightforward. Don't try to get super creative and fancy, because you won't remember it, parents won't remember it, students aren't going to remember it. You can also down here request that public search engines don't display your site, meaning they can't then go on to google.com and search for Mrs. Kiefer's website, because if they did that, they would not pull this back in. It's a very nice feature of domains. So I'm going to go ahead and click that, and I'm going to click publish. Again, these are all kinds of things. You've got to think through so much of this stuff as to who your users are, how public do you want to make this, and all that jazz. So I've published it, and now you see a little shark tooth over here. You can view your published site. You can actually unpublish it. You can take it down. You can change your published settings. You can add in collaborators. You've got your settings gear wheel here. So let's go ahead and view my published site. And let's go to the home page. So you can see this big long URL up here. And this is the last thing that I'm going to leave you with. You can most certainly copy and paste this and share it out to parents, to students, posting play. Pardon me. Another idea that you could do is use a shortened URL. There's several of them out there. Popular ones are like bit.lys or tiny URLs. Creating something like that will be a little bit easier. Like you could create tinyurl.com/ Kiefer website or whatever is available to make it a little bit easier for people to navigate to your site. If you're putting this in your email signature, you could copy and paste that big long URL right there anyway and put that in your email signature. The key is, though, just depending on how you're pushing this out, you may want to think about a shortened URL. They're fantastic, they're excellent to use, and they do make it a little bit simpler. And with that, we're at 6 minutes left. So Desiree, any questions? Oh, and one last thing, sorry. So I've published this. I'm still, I'm the editor on this. Notice when I am looking at this, there's a little pencil in the bottom right-hand corner. Only you as the editor will see this. No one else is going to see this pencil unless they are also an editor on your site. So this is a quick way for me, if I were to bookmark this on my bookmarks bar right here, see how that favicon shows up? See that little favicon right there? Pretty sweet. It's going to show up here. I might recognize that as my website all the time. I can get rid of that wording. I click on it. I'm the only one that's going to see this pencil. It gives you very quick access then to edit your site. So it becomes this kind of revolving door for you, not for everybody else. But that is something that I wanted to make sure that people are aware of. All right, Desiree, questions, comments, anything else that I can cover in the last 5 minutes or so if people are dying to know?
No questions. I just like to make clear that the students can also create websites.
Yep.
So that may be a really fun, engaging assignment. Instead of having them do like your normal assignments, why not have them create a website? And they can make it where only the district can see it, and that way it won't be public.
Right, and I've seen it where students, it's suggested that students create the website, and instead of even going to that step of publishing, because that kind of freaks people out until they're really comfortable with it, have the student add the teacher on as a collaborator, and don't publish it until you're super comfortable and you're confident that this will be a good thing to make open to a wider audience, right? Like, so don't even take that step of publishing yet. But think about all of the different things. We were adding in Google files. We added in PDFs. You can add in maps. You can add in calendars. You can add in videos. You can add in all kinds of things that your students create. And like you saw in that template gallery, and there was a portfolio template that students can use and just kind of do some of that shifting out. So even your younger students could totally do this. And it could be a page for each class, or think about, like, it just becomes limitless. And like I have on my homepage for the resource that I built for all of us, the only limit is truly going to be the limits that you decide to put onto it. Let the creativity just blow your socks off. Let the kids, they're going to show you a ton more than what you're going to just be able to sit here and like sift through. Don't be afraid of that. Embrace it. Truly embrace that.
Okay, guys, last call for questions. Go ahead and put them in the chat. And Sarah, did you have anything else to let us know about before we wrap up?
I just want to thank everybody, especially those of you that have come to multiple of these webinars. Desiree really does a fantastic job. As someone who, prior to this summer, I've not done these virtual webinar type things. I want to give a big shout out to Desiree. She does a fantastic job. So as a presenter, it really takes that bar of like all of the worries and stress and all that. It brings it way down. It's so much fun. I love connecting with you guys. Please do reach out. My website is a great place. It's got all of the ways that you can contact me, Twitter, email, all that kind of stuff. Reach out. And if you do reach out and you don't hear back from me like immediately, just know, you know, I'm a teacher too. Like, I've got stuff that I've got to get done for school, but I promise you, I will not forget about you. And if you go to my website, I do have a tab on there that does share out other presentations that I will be involved with, kind of winding that part down as school starts to ramp back up. But if you have a need or you have a question, go ahead, email myself, email Desiree. We'll both get back to you. We'll help you out. I do love connecting. I love building out that PLN. It's so much fun, and it's so much fun to see what other people are doing. I learn a lot. I'm constantly learning. I love it. So thank you for coming. Thank you, Desiree, for allowing me this opportunity. I really do appreciate it.
Thank you so much, Sarah. This has been an amazing series. We've gotten so many testimonials about people who it has changed. It has changed the way they think about technology. It has changed the way they feel about using it in the classroom. So you have made a wonderful difference. So thank you so much. And again, guys, it's not like, a cry fest, because she's coming back. She's coming back to do more. So we only have one scheduled right now, but we do have more in email, as she talked about. you have like 100 emails. You're like, I'm going to get to this today. So we have more that will be coming out hopefully by, let's say, next week or the week after. So thank you so much. This session has ended. Thank you again, Sarah, for everything.
Oh, Desiree, I can't thank you enough. I really can't, because you've opened up the doors to so many more people. I'd never be able to have connected with all of these people without you. So, and big shout out to my Ross peeps that are out there. Teachers from my own daughter's school have attended a lot of these. I love seeing all of your names pop in here. You guys obviously, you know how to reach me. Everybody else knows how to reach me. TechYouCanDo.com right here, guys. I'm there. So.